There are newspaper articles emerging at the moment that the Defence Personnel Minister, Andrew Morrison, had actually been approached about the possibility of a national conscription system, a compulsory UK national service, assigning 30,000 18-year-olds to the military, which was rejected 2 days earlier, 2 days before the election was called, by defence ministers, and specifically Andrew Morrison said he was concerned about a, quote, hit to morale, and that the resources were simply not there. Even if the army was potentially willing to deal with recruits, those recruits probably would themselves be unwilling and would be disruptive when introduced alongside Britain's professional armed forces. He was asked for a written answer and gave a written that there were no plans to revive the national service, which was scrapped in 1960. And this came 2 days before Rishi Sunak put the conscription issue right at the centre of the Conservative election manifesto. If potentially unwilling national service recruits were to be obliged to serve alongside the professional men and women of our armed forces, it could damage morale, recruitment and retention, and would consume professional military and naval resources. If, on the other hand, national service recruits were kept in separate units, it would be difficult to find a proper and meaningful role for them, potentially harming motivation and discipline. In other words, both ends of the idea are nonsensical. This is a proposal which is going to get nowhere. This is a proposal that cannot work. It's already been rejected by ministers in the government, and yet the Conservative Party, the party of government at the moment, is putting this forward as a key plank of its election manifesto. And it's full of holes. On the one hand, you've got the people who are going to be doing the military part for a year. On the other hand, you've got people who are going to be doing the armed utilities for 25 days, unpaid work in the community. And it's the first big policy pledge of the election campaign, an attempt to win over the older electors from reform who stand no chance of being recruited, or who are not at risk of being recruited in this madness, but would be cheering from the sides, waving little flags like retired members of the Home Guard. It's 2.5 billion a year, which is taken from the Levelling Up budget. So we know the Levelling Up programme was a failure in the hands of Michael Gove, the donkey, and hung out to dry, or at least hung, and now the budget is being used for something else. It's rather like using the international aid budget to prop up the accommodation of asylum seekers in hotels. That would be absurd, wouldn't it? Oh, heavens, that's what we're doing. This is stealing from Peter to pay Paul. This is nonsense economics, nonsense politics, and nonsense promises. Of course, James Cleverly, who loves running around the place pretending to be a soldier, says no one will be compelled to do the military bit. We have, of course, discussed with senior military leaders about the military element of it. Well, who are they? Give us names. But he's not going to give us names. He's just going to run around the place. We're surprised. I'm surprised he's not doing it in uniform. An opportunity to stick on a uniform and polish up his buttons and look looked terribly impressive in his sort of part-time play school army costume, cosplay. This is frivolous, and this is a complete waste of time. And Angela Rayner has said that this chaotic raid on the Shared Prosperity Fund will strip millions from towns and cities across the UK just to fund a desperate election announcement. And the Northern Powerhouse Partnership said the idea of partly paying for the National Service Scheme through the Shared Prosperity Fund was madness. They said that northern communities were already receiving less from the fund than had previously been promised and was previously available under EU structural funds, which the SPF replaced. So in other words, this fund has already been damaged by Brexit, and now it's been damaged by the Conservative Party itself, simply to grab votes from Reform UK. This is madness.